Greetings, YouTube. Today I'm going to review a Savage World setting book, Realms of Cthulhu. Now, up until now, at least in my opinion, when you said the word Cthulhu and role-playing games in the same sentence, you were speaking of Chaosium, of the classic Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. Now, I actually own the second printing of the boxed set. I actually don't own the first printing. I was kind of bummed to find that out. I didn't realize I didn't have the first printing. But Chaosium has been the name in Cthulhu role-playing games forever. I just can't imagine any company breaking into that field with any success. So that's a pretty tall order. Can the Savage World rule system take on the Lovecraftian mythos? Well, they handle this in two ways. One is that you have to have a sanity score in the game. Chaosium always dealt with that, and you can't have the setting without some mechanism for bolstering or supporting your sanity or losing your sanity over time as you are exposed to the otherworldly aspects of the mythos. So the game does introduce a derived sanity score. It also introduces a corruption score, which is directly related to sanity. Your corruption goes up, your sanity goes down. That's how that works right there. They also introduce a skill, knowledge mythos. Interestingly, you cannot start the game with knowledge mythos. Everybody has a 0 score in knowledge mythos. What happens is, when you are first exposed to the mythos, a ghoul attacks you, you find your first sacred tome, what have you, you acquire a knowledge mythos skill of die 4, or d4. This gives you a corruption score of 1 and lowers your sanity score by 1. There's a direct correlation there. As you become more knowledgeable of the mythos, your corruption increases, your sanity decreases. Now, because of the way the Savage World system is built, you can pick up edges which will bolster your sanity and help you recover sanity. So if you were to build a character solely around maintaining your sanity, if you spent every single possible edge on doing that, I think you could maintain your sanity in this game. But that would pretty much be your character's focus. You'd be very well versed in the mythos. You'd be sane, and I can't imagine that anyone would want to invite you to Christmas dinner. Now, the other mechanism they use is a matrix, and this matrix is got two elements: pulpy and gritty. Now, pulpy is just that. It's pulp fiction. It's the kind of thing, two-fisted adventuring, Indiana Jones, The Shadow, The Spider, that kind of thing. The other part of this is gritty, kind of more real world. And so they have 4 different settings for the level of pulpy or gritty elements in the campaign presented to you. There is a pulpy/pulpy setting, very almost cartoony. People are very rarely going to die. If they go insane, they're going to be able to recover quickly. Essentially, they're going to be able to make soap rolls to recover their sanity, to avoid madness. Then there's a pulpy, gritty game, a little more realistic. People die a little more often. They go insane permanently a little more often, but still in the Hollywood kind of a vein. Then you have gritty, pulpy. This is a little more classic. This would probably be more like a film noir kind of a setting, you know what I mean? Things are gritty and realistic, but there still are elements that are plot-driven that are maybe a little unrealistic. And then you have the last, gritty. This is down and dirty, the real world as it would be if you found yourself suddenly facing the Cthulhu mythos. This is not a cheery setting. The best you can hope for is an entertaining death or an interesting form of insanity that takes you out of the game. So, I realize that there are people who play the Call of Cthulhu game knowing this when they walk in, so this is probably not going to be a detriment or considered as a deterrent to anybody who's interested in playing the Realms of Cthulhu game in Savage Worlds. So I'm going to run down a little bit of what the game presents you with here. Introduction, the realms, creating an investigator, new skills, new hindrances, new edges, pretty much standard kind of elements you're going to find in any Savage World setting book. Section on weapons. This book presents you with 3 different time scales. You have the 19th century, or 1890s, the 1920s, which is the classic Lovecraftian mythos era, and the modern setting. So they cover all 3 of these, where you can pretty much decide where you want your campaign to fall. Setting rules, disallowed edges, the delicate psyche, your campaign style, which I just mentioned, the greedy damage, the sanity systems, insanity, in the arms of madness, new uses for skills, and creating your team. Basically, how to establish a team template. Why are these people together? What do they have in common that holds them together as a team? Because if they're not a team, let's face it, how long would you be a member of a group that you didn't have a personal tie to when suddenly you find yourself being attacked by ghouls? The Keeper section. This is the area for the GM himself. A bunch of things on the Cthulhu mythos. The mythos written large, big, sweeping overview kind of thing. Role of the Keeper, crafting your campaign, pulling it together into an actually functioning adventure. Crafting mythos tales. What about the monsters that you encounter? Novel approaches. Nightmare recipes, and using corruption. All very good information you're going to need if you're going to run a mythos campaign. Matters of magic. This is a really good section on some of the books that you can find, the tomes you can find in the mythos setting, and the magic that they will then allow you to have access to. Are the books legitimate? Are they good information? Are they bad translations? And each has a different kind of a rating and different plus and minus on your different ability to use them effectively to do what the book is supposed to allow you to do. I thought that was rather nicely done. It's a nice template for making your own books. Mythos Tale. This is a whole bunch of little adventure seeds, essentially. I think they're all like 2 pages or something like that. Very good, very useful. It gives you an idea of how to set up your own adventure structure, and I was very appreciative of this because that they are introducing the mythos to a new rule system. Mysteries of Drake Manor. This is an excellent presentation of Drake Manor. It's an estate that could be very easily used in any campaign. And it's designed to be placed relatively, in a coastal area, roughly in areas that Lovecraft wrote about, but you could place it in any coastal area. You're really going to want to keep it on the East Coast, I think, however, because that really is part and parcel of the Cthulhu mythos was the East Coast. The South and the New England coast, things like that. These are the places where the Appalachians, even further inland, but these are the places where the mythos really has its deepest roots, in my opinion. Then we have Citizens and Denizens of the Mythos setting. A really nice selection of cultists and creatures. Wonderful stuff in here. Rules for creating random, essentially tainted cultists with different abilities and hindrances. Very nice for setting up powerful non-player characters. Again, I've never been disappointed with random generation systems in a Savage World product. They just seem to get them right. They're very well done. I'm very glad that the setting is here. I think it would be useful in other games as well. If you want to run for other Savage World settings. The monsters themselves can easily be plucked out and dumped into a fantasy Savage World setting if you really want to throw something at your characters they're not expecting. Very well written. And the last section is how to convert things from the Chaosium's BRP system into this system if you want to be able to use all of the huge number of books out there available for Call of Cthulhu, and this converter allows you to do that. Now, the final question. Can you run Savage Worlds as a system of mechanics and pull off Cthulhu? And with this product, my answer is unequivocally yes, you can. If you like Savage Worlds, if it's your preferred rule system, and you've been waiting for a product that lets you run Lovecraft's Cthulhu Mythos, this is the book for you. You've found it. Now, while reading this, it made me think of something. And this is, I freely admit, a little meta here. I can't understand why anyone would want to role play in the Cthulhu mythos, because the best you can hope for is an entertaining death or an interesting form of insanity. And for me, that is not a fun time. And as a GM, I do not want to set up a game where my players are going to slowly be driven mad, or I'm going to kill them off because there is no other way for them to survive. That isn't my idea of fun. I realize it is other people's idea of fun. I've never wanted to play a Call of Cthulhu campaign, really. I've found them fascinating. I own an autographed copy of At the Mountains of Madness, the mega adventure, okay? So I have an interest in this campaign idea. And I find that the Lovecraft mythos fascinating, Hickman's Models being my favorite Lovecraft story. But I find no attraction. I don't know how anyone could walk into a Cthulhu game without realizing their character is either going to go insane or is going to die. How do you play that and play the character believably? I could almost see if a GM started to run a game in Savage World and the players did not know that he was going to use a mythos. So that they're playing a different kind of game, a 19th century game or a 1920s pulp game, and then suddenly mythic elements from Lovecraft begin to work their way in. But once they figured this out, then they have the meta foreknowledge of this. It's over. They can no longer be drawn in like the characters of a Lovecraft story are. The characters in a Lovecraft story don't know they're in a Lovecraft story. You as a player and you as a GM know you are crafting a Lovecraft story. So I don't quite understand how you do that and really enjoy what you're doing. If you do, go for it. But it's not a flavor of gaming that has any interest for me. I found this a great read. It's a really useful resource. I could see myself using the random tainted cultist kind of rules in here. I could see myself using the monsters and some of the Drake Manor itself I could see myself using. So this book has utility to people outside directly playing the Cthulhu mythos game. But it just isn't something I'm going to be into. So I hope that you found this review interesting, and if you like the Cthulhu mythos and you like the Savage World setting, go get a copy.